I am a sick man. I am a wicked man. An unattractive man. I think my liver hurts. However, I don't know a fig about my sickness, and I'm not sure what it is that hurts me. Those are the first few sentences of Fyodor Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground. Let's talk about it real quick. Hi, I'm a little hippie, and yeah, we're gonna be talking about Notes from Underground today. I don't think I ever made a like video about this book. I don't think I ever made a video about this book. Um, I guess because I didn't know how important it was, the very first time I read it, of course, because it was the first thing I was ever exposed to in Dostoevsky's world. So, of course, I didn't know how, like, monumental this work is, even though it's like maybe 150 pages. Yeah, dude, this book is 130 pages. And I spoke about this book shortly in my previous video not too long ago, a few days ago at this point, um, about where to start with Dostoevsky. And although I would say do as I say, not as I do, because I would definitely not advise anybody to start out with Notes from Underground because you're going to be like, what the hell is this? Because I remember that was exactly how I was when I first read this book. Like, it was going fine, and I thought it was funny, as one does, because Dostoevsky he was a comedian, okay? He was a little bit of a comedian. Maybe if he didn't even try, he kind of was a little bit of a comedian. But that's the thing, like, the funniest people are not like telling jokes, they're just talking. You know what I'm saying? Like, they just be out here saying the wildest stuff, and everybody is just dying laughing. Humor. Anyway, yeah, those are like the most like hookish first few sentences of a book I think I have ever read. Like, my liver hurts. My liver hurts is crazy. I know I'm coming off as a bit of a silly goose, but like, this is who I am, bro. This is what you signed up for when you subscribe to this channel. By the way, are you subscribed? Kind of shady if you're not. Kind of shady. But anyway, back to Notes from Underground. um, I have my I have my laptop over here with some notes. So yeah, this is just a general summary of Notes from Underground. Um, So it's a short novel about spite, self awareness, and the psychological chaos of being a modern human. The narrator, known only as the Underground Man, is a retired civil servant living in isolation in St. Petersburg. He is intensely intelligent, painfully self aware, and deeply unhappy. He believes that excessive consciousness is a disease. Instead of freeing him, his intelligence traps him in an endless self analysis, resentment, and par- paralysis. Paralysis. Um, and that's pretty much the general summary of this book. It's broken down in two parts. It is underground and then apropos of the wet snow, which apropos of the wet snow had some of the most beautiful writing in it I've ever read in my life. Um, but there are a lot of concepts in this teeny little book that are brought up throughout Dostoevsky's Big Five that are important to not just the Big Five, but to Dostoevsky's philosophy in general. Um, so this is why I feel Notes from Underground is a foundational work, in that it's the very first of the Big Five that you should read because it gives you a basis for what's to come, and it is the very essence of what makes the Big Five so masterful, if you will. Um, And the Underground Man, he is not a very likable character, but you know, I it was so good because Dostoevsky was so exceptional at psychology, and I really felt myself settling into this book and being pulled into it because a lot of what the Underground Man goes through is brought on by his own action and his own lack of satisfaction with his life. And he's very spiteful. Like I mentioned before, he's very, very spiteful, and that's what's keeping him in this cycle of just doom and gloom, for lack of a better term. And it's really interesting to watch because you're sitting back and you're just like, dude, if you had just done this or that differently, this could have been, this could have been not a problem. This could have been a non-problem if you had just done this differently. If you had just hung out with people that actually liked you, instead of trying to fit in with these people who obviously don't want you there. You know what I mean? But again, in this one, Russian society is a driver. It's not the focal point, but it is the driver. And in this one, of course, you spend time with this character, and it's in such a way where you can't help but to think about psychology. Like, that's the way that Fyodor Dostoevsky writes. And some themes in this book that are explored are like, there are certain people who they just can't like anybody unless they feel superior to them, which was a point that I found very profound in this work. Um, and then the idea that human beings are flawed, will never be perfect, and that if you give a human being all the perfect circumstances, they'll mess it up every time. They'll mess it up every time because we don't want perfection. We want to feel alive. We want to feel real. We don't want to feel like we're living in a simulation. You know, we want to be free. We don't want to be perfect. We don't want to have the perfect life. We want to be free to make our own choices and to do what we want to do. And there are some there are some ideologies that believe that we can create this utopia, or that we can arrive at a place where things are perfect, where society is perfect, and everything is kind of like doing a math problem. And math, you know arithmetic is, you know I mean, it's the truth. There's no way. It's infinite, and it goes on and on and on. Numbers go on and on and on forever, and there's no way for it to be untrue. You know what I mean? For it to be not what it is. But human nature is not math. Human nature is not numbers. Human nature is not equations. And so there are things about being a human being and issues that we face that cannot be solved like an equation. So that was another thing that was very profound, and that is another thing that is touched on throughout at least some of the well, the two outside of Notes from Underground of the big five that I read, um, that are touched on and really resonated with me, especially in Crime and Punishment. There's a whole section in Crime and Punishment where they have this where one of Raskolnikov's friends, Razumikin, has this conversation with somebody else about how we could just never have this perfect utopia of a society because human beings, we can't do that. Number one, we're not capable of that. Number two, we don't even want that. We don't want that, like I was talking about before. And once I get to read Demons and I get to read the Brothers Karamazov, I'm pretty sure there'll be some more sprinkles of Notes from Underground there as well. But I do think that this little book is foundational. Um, and it helps you understand a lot of the themes because like one of the themes in Crime and Punishment, as a matter of fact, is that Raskolnikov, he sets out and commits this crime. And if you haven't read Crime and Punishment now, you probably want to not listen to this part. You probably want to skip away. Probably want to turn the video off. I don't know. If you don't want spoilers. But starting now, Raskolnikov is he's a very intelligent young man. He's very bright, and he had a lot of potential. And he finds himself in pretty much the same kind of situation that the underground man is in. He's very spiteful. He's very unhappy with where his life has ended up. But it only ended up this way because of the choices that he has made and because of pride. And he felt, because he was an exceptional intellect, that he could commit a crime and not and be free of the consequence of committing said crime. And could he have gotten away with this crime? Of course he could have. Given the way that it turns out in the story, he could have 100% gotten away with it, except for the fact his conscience was eating at him the entire time. And so he figures out that actually, because of his intellect and just because of his intellect, he's not absolved from human emotion. He's not absolved from guilt and from his conscience. And one of the things that he ends up recognizing is that intellect and emotional capacity go hand in hand. And those are the things, the joining of those two things, intellect and emotional capacity, emotional intelligence, are what is causing him to be in this turmoil. And so the whole gist of why he went with committing the crime, the murder, is because he felt he was superior and that he was above the law, and that certain people, only a select few people, could lead society, could make these kinds of decisions and decide who gets to live and who doesn't, essentially. And after he commits the crime and after the crime goes wrong and he has to murder somebody else whom he didn't even consider even being a part of this of of this crime, then he has to really think about this situation and about everything he thought he knew. And that just goes to show you that, again, like, the nature of being a human being is not that of doing an equation. It's not 2 plus 2 equals 4, though many things in life are. The experience of being a human being is not. And um, so that's one of the things that is explored in Notes from Underground, and it echoes loudly in Crime and Punishment. It's pretty much the whole thesis. And it's not the exact same thing, but it's along the same lines because, as I mentioned, Raskolnikov believed that some people, some exceptionally bright people, were above the law and that they could do pretty much whatever they wanted because of their intellect, you know. And, that's just not how it works. And so I think that Notes from Underground is pivotal. I think it should 100% be read before anybody even thinks of jumping into Crime and Punishment or even The Idiot, and especially something like Demons or The Brothers Karamazov, these last two being written late into Dostoevsky's life, being the last two novels he ever wrote. And these, like, really being the culmination of everything he believed in these last two works, Demons and The Brothers K. Um, so if I didn't make it clear before, I hope I have now how important Notes from Underground is. It's small, but it's mighty. And I think reading this book, even more than once, especially more than once, will help you understand Dostoevsky a bit more, because I believe that Notes from Underground is the essence of everything he believed condensed down into one 130 page short novel. So, with that, that's going to bring us to the end of the video. I hope you have a good day. I hope you have a good evening. And most importantly, I hope you read a good book. And I'll see you when I see you. Bye.